Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pro Player Insiders podcast for week one of the NFL season. I'm your host, Danny Thompson, checking in with you. This is the Pro Player Insiders brand new NFL podcast that we're going to be doing once a week. I know this is a recording going up on Saturday. Normally, the plan was to go on Wednesday, but due to some understanding with the NFL, and when you watch or you want to listen to podcasts, especially about games going on each week, you want to be able to get the closest and most in-depth information before you start getting ready for your games on Sunday. So this podcast will be up on Saturday before the games on week one begin on Sunday. Speaking of the season starting up, the season did kick off on Thursday night with the Atlanta Falcons taking on the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field, and a game that was reminiscent of the game that the Falcons played last season in Philadelphia in the playoffs. The Philadelphia Eagles took care of business by taking care of the Falcons 18-12 in a sloppy penalty-filled first half that ended up with the Falcons looking like the same team that happened last season. Atlanta started the game off really well, getting the ball down the field inside the Philadelphia red zone. But the Eagles did what the Eagles do best in the red zone, shutting down Atlanta, stopping Devontae Freeman on fourth down, causing a huge turnover on downs. And the Falcons looked like the Falcons of old of last season. The Falcons could not get it done in the red zone again last night, and Matt Ryan was just ineffective getting the ball to his receivers. Ryan finished the game with 21 of 43 passing in the game. Now, that's a significant number because Ryan's first game, I think, his entire career where he had under 50% completion percentage. Out of the 43 passes, 19 of them were thrown to Julio Jones, and rookie Calvin Ridley didn't have one single pass attempt thrown his way in week one in the opener on Thursday night. The story of the game for the Falcons side of things was they only ran the ball 18 times. Now, I know Devontae Freeman did hurt his knee early in the game and was really kind of hampered by it, but Tevin Coleman only had 9 carries for 19 yards. And when you only run the ball 18 times in a game against Philadelphia and to minimal to moderate success, it's going to make things hard for the offense, especially when the Falcons had to throw the ball down the field. Now, Jones did really well in the open field. Like I said, he caught the 10 passes for, I think, 160 yards in the game, but you can't throw it to Julio 19 times a game and expect effective. You spent a first-round pick on Calvin Ridley and could not get him not even one pass attempt on Thursday night. So Ryan's got to be able to distribute the ball a little bit more effectively, and the Steve Sarkisian offense did not do what it was supposed to do. But at the same time, the Philadelphia Eagles defense is one of the best in the NFL. And even though they're missing some key components and key parts out of their unit, the Eagles defense did what the Eagles defense does, and they just shut teams down. Atlanta, even with Julio Jones in the red zone, could not figure out how to get in and make enough points in the red zone, making the Falcons settle for field goals. Now, they did get one touchdown in the game, but you can't win the NFL if you're not scoring in the red zone. On the offensive side of things, Nick Foles didn't do too bad. He struggled passing the ball, but his biggest play was actually another version of the New England Patriots play that Tom Brady couldn't catch in the Super Bowl, where Nelson Aguilar found Foles on a fourth down to make a huge found Foles like a 15-yard pass that kind of held the game open. And Jay Ajayi got 2 goal line touchdowns. So if you have Jay Ajayi in fantasy, his 60 yards and 2 touchdowns might help you win your game this weekend. So the Falcons are 0-1 going into it. Play next week against the Carolina Panthers at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and the Philadelphia Eagles will travel down to Florida to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Bucs home opener. So we have 14 other games we're talking about. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to get into what the first week of the season is going to look like, especially with some of the top matchups, and we'll talk some of the 1 o'clock games. So give me about 45 seconds, and be right back. We are back on the Pro Player Insiders podcast. I'm your host, Danny Thompson. Check me out on Twitter at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, the number 3, and Thompson, Thom, on Twitter. And also check out my my articles, as well as the great team that I work with at ProPlayersInsiders.com. That is ProPlayers, ProPlayers, Insiders, INSIDERS.com. So we're going to talk about the early games this segment here on the podcast. And so when we say early games, the games are going to be the 1 o'clock games going on in the NFL on Sunday. And let's start off with the game in Cleveland that's got a lot of attention because of a guy who's not playing in the game. The Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Cleveland Browns, the Browns home opener. And the story of this game is really, as growing up, there was a television show called Where's Carmen in San Diego. Pittsburgh fans and players are now wondering, where is Le'Veon Bell? Bell will not be playing in the opening game on Sunday afternoon, and we don't know, as football fans, when Le'Veon Bell is coming back. This has been a struggle that's been going on for the last couple of years due to Le'Veon Bell holding out because he wants a new contract. You saw the contract Todd Gurley got in the offseason, and really nowadays NFL players, especially guys like running backs, they want more guaranteed money and they want longer term, flexibility. The one thing about Le'Veon Bell is about to hit 30 years old. He's at that point in the NFL where you've taken a lot of punishment to a certain age, and running backs start to decline in some areas. Now, Le'Veon Bell said he was not going to play for the money he paid for last year and touched the ball 408 times. I understand where he's coming from, and Bell is probably one of the best dual threat running backs we have in this entire league. It's going to be a problem. Pittsburgh's not going to have, nothing against James Conner, but James Conner is not the production of Le'Veon Bell. When you have a guy like Le'Veon Bell on the field, it makes things a lot easier for Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. But because of the fact that he can run the ball behind a tremendous offensive line, and he has the ability to get down the field in the passing game. I think he was the second leading receiver in Pittsburgh last year behind Brown. So when you have a guy who's a dual threat, and Ben Roethlisberger has a security blanket, especially on screen passes, flares, and those things out of the backfield, it does make things a little bit easier. But since he's not available, let's look at the injury report going on for both teams. This is as of Saturday morning. Vance McDonald is out with a foot injury for the Steelers and for the Browns. You have E.J. Gaines, who's officially out, and James Burgess, who has a concussion, is doubtful. So let's look at the game from both perspectives. Now, the key matchup we want to watch for the Pittsburgh Steelers is, James Conner against the Browns defense. The Browns defense is much improved over last season. They added a couple key pieces on the defensive side of the ball, including first round pick on defense. And can Conner actually get to that second level? Now, James Conner can get the 85, 90 yards in the ground, catch a couple passes. Hey, they're going to say Le'Veon Bell who? Because we all know the Pittsburgh side of things offensively, they have Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and all those weapons in the passing game. I mean, they're going to be able to throw a ball down the field, and Roethlisberger knows how to get the ball to the receivers. But it all depends on what James Conner can do in the backfield running the football. If Conner can, I would say the magic number for Conner, if he gets that 90-yard mark on the ground, Pittsburgh's going to have an easy day. If he doesn't get to 90 yards, I don't think Pittsburgh will have the easiest of days because the Browns are really actually a better team than the 0-16 team that we saw last season looks. They added Tyrod Taylor quarterback. They added Jarvis Landry. Josh Gordon is ready to go. They have weapons. I like Carlos Hyde in the preseason he had. Duke Johnson's one of the better pass-catching running backs in the NFL, and David Njoku is a sleeper tight end to have a huge year on the fantasy side of things at tight end. The Browns are very much improved, and listen, they're trying to win this first game. And Tyrod Taylor, remember, was a playoff quarterback last year. And that is a difference. And really, Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starting quarterback until Baker Mayfield takes over, which I think will be mid-season. Nothing against Taylor is that, listen, you spend the number one overall pick on a quarterback, he has to play soon enough. Pittsburgh's defense is not as dominant as it once was. We saw in Pittsburgh's last game they actually played that actually counted was a playoff game where they gave up 40-plus points to Jacksonville at home and Blake Bortles and that offense. Not to say that the Browns are going to score 40 points, because remember, as much as I love Jarvis Landry, Landry's not a deep ball threat. He's a very good pass catcher and a very good route runner, but Josh Gordon has the ability to potentially sneak up top. I'll give my predictions in the final segment of the show, but really the matchup to watch is, like I said, James Conner against the defense for the Cleveland Browns. If he can slash and dice those guys in the ground, get some good solid runs early, Roethlisberger will have the ability to use the play action pass, and also he has Antonio Brown. To me, Brown is the most dangerous receiver in football. No offense to Julio Jones or Odell Beckham, he's just that. Or my man Hopkins down in Houston, but no offense, but Brown is the best receiver in football. So I'll give my predictions later on, let you know who I'm taking this game. Early game, 49ers, Vikings, at home Injury reports like this: 49ers will not have Eric Magnuson or Dakota Watson, who are both out due to hamstring injuries. Malcolm Smith is doubtful with his own hamstring injury as well too. Vikings: Rock Thomas is out along with Avante Collins. Pat Effinstein were all out due to injuries. Collins had the elbow. Effinstein has the ankle and the shoulder injury. Guys on the doubtful side of things, you look at Mackenzie Alexander, and Xavier Rhodes is questionable due to a hamstring. Listen, the 49ers got the worst news of the week last week when Jerick McKinnon, former Viking, blew it towards ACL, out for the entire season, and it kind of hurts the running game as well too, completely, because Matt Breida and Alfred Morris are now the two guys back there. Breida had his moments last year, but obviously by giving Jerick McKinnon all the money, we're not completely sold to him. And Alfred Morris is just Alfred Morris, a guy you don't want to have a big set of numbers, but he can produce when needed. He had a couple decent seasons in Dallas behind that Cowboys offensive line, but he was really known for the first couple years he had in Washington. I'm not expecting much out of Morris, but you never know what could possibly happen. The good news is for the 49ers is that Pierre Garçon and company wide receiver have Jimmy Garoppolo for the entire season behind the at the quarterback helm. Garoppolo has more pressure on any quarterback in the NFL, not named Matt Ryan right now, and I'll get to Ryan in a second later on as well too. Garoppolo has a lot of pressure on him. I mean, the kid's was 5-0 as a starter with the 49ers last year, sparked the 49ers to what was a great finish last year on the offense side of the ball. And like I said, Garoppolo has the entire Bay Area on his shoulders because he has a big contract and he has the hype of being the next big quarterback prospect for the 49ers. Now, the defense side of the ball, the 49ers will be without Reuben Foster, who is suspended. And like I said, the two linebackers who are also out as well too. So the linebacking core is a little bit soft. And a little bit suspect behind going against the Minnesota team that has a very good offensive line, and also Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray running the ball out of the backfield. Now, the defensive side of things, like I said, without Reuben Foster being suspended, they're going to have to look at guys like Fred Warner and Brock Cole, who, they're gonna have to step up, have huge games at the linebacking core, especially making tackles and not letting Dalvin Cook get to that third level or even make those big gains that he made at Florida State. And then Latavius Murray is a solid running back as well too. Now, on the Vikings side of things, on the offense side of the ball, the Vikings added Kirk Cousins, which was the biggest addition of anybody in the NFL. To me, if the Vikings would have had Kirk Cousins last year, they might have had the Super Bowl run. Because nothing against Case Keenum, but Kirk Cousins is a different quarterback. Yes, Keenum's a game manager, but Cousins can get the ball down the field, and we have two guys who can make plays like Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs on your outsides, and you have Kyle Rudolph down the middle. It makes things easier when your quarterback can get you the ball. But no one has more pressure on them in the NFL, like I said, other than Matt Ryan or Garoppolo, actually, I said a couple seconds ago, than Kirk Cousins. Everything Kirk Cousins has is guaranteed in the contract. If Cousins plays like Kirk Cousins normally has, if he goes back, even Cousins had good numbers in Washington last year. If Cousins can get to that 63, 64% completion percentage, throw over 4,000 yards, give the team 25 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, the Vikings can be right back in the Super Bowl. I mentioned that on the NFC podcast that I recorded earlier on in the week. Now, on the defense side of things for the Vikings, listen, Minnesota is one of the best defenses in football, hands down. All three layers are just solid, and they don't mind giving up points. Everson Griffin coming off the wings, Harrison Smith and Xavier Rhodes, if Rhodes is going to play, are in the secondary, and they just make plays. The linebackers are solid. The Vikings are Mike Zimmer are a very, very well coached team. Don't make too many mistakes and love shutting down offenses. They have a very big task to take on Garoppolo in this offense, but the Vikings have a lot of things going for them, and Dalvin Cook is finally healthy, so we get to see what the kid from Florida State can actually do. Bengals, Colts, and the Andrew Luck return home game. Injury report for the Bengals: Cody Core is out with a back injury, is doubtful with a back injury, and the Colts will not have Denzel Good with a knee injury. Marlon Mack is questionable along with Anthony Cazzera. Marlon Mack is a starting running back for the Colts, and Anthony Canzanzo is one of the offensive linemen they have. They're both questionable with hamstring injuries. The good news is for the Bengals this week that the Bengals will start fresh. Andy Dalton and AJ Green is still one of the best combinations in football. We get to see what John Ross can really do. I think Ross is going to be one of the sleeper receivers. So if you're playing fantasy, he's the type of guy that can go over the top. They drafted him in the first round from Washington, a true speedster. Hopefully get to the outside, kind of in that I would say Taylor Gabriel role that Atlanta had a couple years ago. Tavon Austin, those shorter receivers that can go over the top. Not going to say Steve Smith or Deshaun Jackson because he hasn't gotten to that level yet, but they're starting. Joe Mixon is going to be much more effective, much more used in the passing game, along with Giovanni Bernard. Offense line is all right, but the Bengals' really major thing is they have to get the ball to A.J. Green, and Green has to step up after having a non-A.J. Green type of year last year. On the defense side of things for the Colts, for the Bengals, is the Bengals. We have Vontaze Burfict, and that's kind of used. They're kind of used to that one. But the Bengals' job on Sunday is to shut down Andrew Luck. Luck is finally healthy after missing all last season. With various with a multitude of injuries he's had the last couple of years. But when Luck is healthy, Luck is one of the best top 7 quarterbacks in the NFL. The question is, after really having a couple injury filled seasons, can Luck still do what Andrew Luck does best? Now on the offensive side of the ball, they don't have Frank Gore any longer, and T.Y. Hilton has to spread himself as the top target. Dante Moncrief is now down in Jacksonville, and Marlon Mack is going to have to be the starting running back. If not, Wilkins will get a lot of the touches. Jordan Wilkins will get a lot of touches in the backfield for the Colts. This game could be a shootout. It could also be a snooze fest as well too. So this is just the game that Colts fans have been waiting for. It could because they finally got their quarterback back. So if you're looking to watch anything in this game, it is Andrew Luck just trying to carve through the Bengals defense. Bills, Ravens, in Baltimore. Ravens are a huge favorite in this game. The Bills are starting Nate Peterman at quarterback. That's what I'm going to say about that. Injury report: Ray McLeod's out. Receiver Ray McLeod's out for the Bills, and Julius Stafford is questionable with a nose injury. Hayden Hurst is out, along with Willie Henry have all been declared out. Kenny Young and Marcus Kennedy are questionable. Young, the linebacker, Canty, the corner. Listen, and really, like I said, the Bills are starting Nathan Peterman quarterback. That means LaShawn McCoy is going to have a humongous workday against the Ravens defense. That is still the Ravens defense. They're going to have to use McCoy in different areas to just get touches in his hand. I'm not sure if Peterman can get the ball in the hands of guys like Kelvin Benjamin and Zay Jones at the outside part of the wide receiver. It's going to be a long day for Buffalo fans, and not starting Josh Allen could be detriment to the young kid going forward, because it's obvious that you drafted Allen to be the quarterback of the future. They trade A.J. McCarron to the Raiders right before the final set of cuts, and to give the job to Peterman, who really was awful when he was in last season, is kind of one of those things where you look at the Bills like, what are you doing? Like I said, but the good news for the Bills is defensively they're not too bad on the defensive side of the ball, and really they're going completely healthy. Like I said, the only guy who's really out on the 53-man roster is McLeod. The Bills defense should have some success should have some kind of success against the Ravens offense, but I love Alex Collins' game. The Bills defense, like I said, is solid. They're not exactly elite. They're not exactly the worst defense in the league, but Alex Collins can make a lot of damage running the football. And then guess what? The Ravens have receivers. Michael Crabtree comes over from the 49ers, and he's now going to take over the number 1 slot at receiver. I expect Crabtree to get some separation on the outside. I think Michael Crabtree can go back to the days where he was a number 1 receiver. I think Crabtree could even catch close to 1,000 yards receiving this year, especially with Flacco getting him the ball. Like I said, I love Collins. The defense is going to make plays. They always do. There's never been a letdown with the Ravens defense. So just to let you know, that's kind of where I'm headed in this game. Giants, Jaguars in New York. Good news for Jaguar fans. Nothing major on the injury report as of Saturday morning. And the Giants will be without Olivier Vernon at linebacker, and Tay Davis are both missing from the linebacker core for the Jaguars. Jacksonville comes into the season, with high hopes. They were literally 1 series away potentially from making the Super Bowl. Ran out of gas in the fourth quarter against New England last year in the AFC Championship game. Returned 10 of 11 starters on defense, and also have even though they had some change at the receiving core with no Allen Robinson, no Allen Hurns, and a lot of the receiving targets are gone. They returned D.D. Westbrook as well as Keenan Cole. Check on the website, talk about how dangerous Cole can be. Also signed Dante Moncrief from the Indianapolis Colts to play wide receiver. Austin Seferian-Jenkins came over from Tampa to help out the tight end position, with Mercedes Lewis moving on to Green Bay. But really, the Jaguars is really about their defense and being able to shut teams down, which is fun because the New York Giants love to score points, and the Giants are finally healthy on offense. The Giants on the offense side of things get Eli Manning back at quarterback for a complete season. Yes, a complete season, yes, because even though he did miss 1 game, that 1 game was detrimental because of the consecutive game starting streak. He has Odell Beckham healthy, Sterling Shepard, a much improved offensive line over last year, because the offensive line was terrible. I'm not saying they're elite, but they're a lot better than they were last year. And they have Saquon Barkley, a guy they're going to try to get in plenty of space. Now, the real thing for the Giants is that where they're going to be able to do with Odell Beckham and putting him on the field. I see that offensive coordinator, I see Pat Sherman moving Beckham in so many different positions to keep him away from Jalen Ramsey, or keep Jalen Ramsey off his case all the time. You can see some slant routes Not too many go routes. I think you should see some quick outs and quick ins to get Beckham the ball and let Beckham have some room and space. Sterling Shepard's a big target. He's going to one being touched by AJ Boye all day long. And really, if DJ Hayden, who came over from the Raiders, can do some decent job in the slot, it's going to become a long day because the front seven for Jacksonville is going to be able to get pressure on Manning, and really the running game is going to be questionable. But I love the linebackers for Jacksonville, and really if Blake Bortles doesn't make mistakes against the Giants defense that is not exactly good at the cornerback position, the Jaguars could be taking this game. But like I said, we'll talk about that later. Bucks and Saints in New Orleans, a game where the Buccaneers will not have James Winston due to suspension. They're also without Vita Vea, defensive tackle with a calf injury. Brent Grimes is also out as well, more likely going to be out with the groin. Devontae Harris, the other corner, has a hamstring injury. Donovan Smith is questionable with a knee. Saints side of things, Jared Bushrod is out, and Andreas Pete, offensive lineman, is questionable. Yes, the Saints are missing potentially two offensive linemen, but this is New Orleans Saints and one of the best offenses in the NFL, led by Drew Brees at the quarterbacking helm. Now, the Saints will not have Mark Ingram, who is suspended, so if you have him in fantasy football, remember he will not be back until October with the 4-game suspension. That means Alvin Kamara, who's had two big games last year against the Buccaneers in their two meetings last year, should be able to carve through the Buccaneers defense. The Buccaneers suspect at corner, Vernon Hargreaves, will be starting at one side with Grimes potentially being out on the other side. So whoever the hole is going to be with the Saints, the Buccaneers have to deal with Michael Thomas and one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. I love Traquan Smith in this game. The Saints defense was much improved. Marcus Lattimore and Cameron Jordan were Pro Bowlers last year. First team, also all pros as well too, and they're going to get a pass rush on. Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't have much mobility, and the offense line for Tampa Bay is mediocre at best. This game could turn to a shootout. So if you are playing fantasy football, and I did say Fitzpatrick's a sitting target, just remember, if this game gets ugly early, they're going to be throwing. Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson will have a lot of attempts thrown their way because really in this game, I can't foresee the Bucks defense doing much against the Saints offense. I think Breeze and the company might put up 30-plus points this game. This might be the biggest blowout of the entire week. Texans, Patriots, and one of the more interesting games on Sunday afternoon, the return of Deshaun Watson. Injury report for the Texans. Kevon Webster is out with the Achilles. Receivers Will Fuller, Sammy Coates, and Kiki Koye are all questionable. And Duke Oliver, linebackers, questionable. For the Patriots, Sonny Michel, running back, along with Jacob Hollister, Marcus Cannon, and Nate Ebner, all questionable. Really, long story short, this game is going to be the most exciting game of Week 1, in my opinion. Reason being, Deshaun Watson against Tom Brady. There's nothing but greatness in that matchup. Watson was well on his way to be Rookie of the Year last year before he hurt himself in the game against the Seahawks. And we saw what Deshaun Watson did in the month of October, was just lighting up defenses, 3, 4, 5 touchdown games left and right. Will Fuller going deep. DeAndre Hopkins was establishing himself as one of the better receivers in the NFL because he had good quarterback play. Not really sure what Alfred Blue and Lamar Miller is going to give you against the Patriots defense, but expect a shootout. On the Patriots side of things, Tom Brady is the quarterback behind the helm. No Julian Edelman due to the suspension, but watch Chris Hogan. I love Rob Gronkowski in this game. It's going to be an offensive battle. The difference in this game is if the Texans can somehow get something out of J.J. Watt, who's been injured over the last couple seasons, missed a lot of time last season, and Jadeveon Clowney coming off the outside as a pass rusher, if they can get the pass rush going, and they can get to Brady, this might be a little bit interesting, more interesting than they thought. But I love James White as a fantasy candidate at the running back position because he's so dual threat. I just know that Rex Burkhead could steal some goal line touches, and there could be a sleeper in this game at receiver. Could be Cordero Patterson from the Patriots. Titans, Dolphins in Miami. Opening game for the Titans. Titans going to be without Jack Conklin, Harold Landry, and Rashad Evans and Kendrick Lewis due to different injuries. And the Dolphins are not sure about Devontae Parker, who's missed all preseason with a finger injury, who is considered doubtful as of now. Now, without Conklin, who's out for the game on the left side of the offensive line, Dennis Kelly is going to have to go against he's going to be starting on the left side, taking care of the Dolphins' pass rushers. Not to mention Derek So it's going to be a different. So let's talk about the Titans on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, Dennis Kelly is going to be starting on the outside, but remember they still have two good running backs in Derrick Henry, as well as the signing of Deion Lewis in the backfield. Henry's going to be a lot of the goal line touches, also the guy in short yardage, and Lewis is going to be very, very effective in the passing game. Corey Davis has to have a big year on the outside, the receiver position. He should have a good opening start against the Dolphins secondary. Now, the guy you want to watch for Marcus Mariota on the offensive side of the ball, of course, is Delaney Walker. Walker is one of the more underrated but very, very consistent tight ends in the NFL. Defensively, the Titans have a very, very solid unit. Wesley Woodard, controls the defensive side, is the captain on the defensive side at the linebacker position. Also, watch rookie Malcolm Butler, who they brought over from New England to be the leading cornerback, and the guy is going to be watching Parker or whoever they had that's going to be trying out next because the Dolphins lost Jarvis Landry in the offseason. Speaking of the Dolphins and the offense, Ryan Tannehill returns after missing the entire season last year. Running game is solid. I love Kenyon Drake in this game. Drake is going to get a lot of carries. Like I said, Devontae Parker cannot go with the finger injury. The Dolphins have a multitude of receivers you can throw at them. Kenny Stills, Danny Amendola, Albert Wilson, not Fitzpatrick, but Ryan Tannehill should have a lot of passing attempts this game. But like I said, the guy you want to pick, if anything, in fantasy is Kenyon Drake in this game as well, too. Derek Morgan is going to be the defensive side rushing for the Dolphins. And he's going to have to he's the one that's going to be matched up a lot, especially on the edge against Dennis Kelly. If Morgan can get to the passer and get Mariota, some pressure, it could be a more difficult day, but I love the Titans in this game. The Titans have a lot of offense, but remember the Dolphins can score some points, like I said, with Stills, Amendola running through the slot, and Albert Wilson as well, too. So, those are your 1 o'clock games. Take a quick break, and we'll get to the 4 o'clock games as well as the national television games. This is the Pro Player Insiders podcast. I'm Danny Thompson. We'll be right back after the quick break. We are back on the Pro Players Insiders podcast. I'm your host, Danny Thompson. Check me out on Twitter at Danny, DANNY, the number 3, and Thompson, THOMPSON on Twitter. And check us out at ProPlayerInsiders.com. Myself and the entire writing team over there getting you prepared for the NFL season, which is already underway, but all the major slated games starts on Sunday and Monday night. So we're getting into the late games, including the Chargers and Chiefs. We'll start with that one. Eric Berry's the major injury for the Chiefs, who is doubtful with a heel injury, and as we learned of yesterday, Joey Bosa is out with his foot injury. Really, there's only 2 guys in the injury report, but there are 2 major guys in the injury report. Eric Berry, all pro safety and one of the best in the entire game, probably won't suit up because he hasn't practiced all week with the Chiefs, which leaves a gaping hole in the secondary, especially at the safety spot, a guy who makes a lot of plays. And you're looking at Ron Parker probably going to be in that mix, as well as Eric Murray going to have a lot more run in Eric Berry's position. Joey Bosa being out for the Chargers is going to be huge because Bosa is their best pass rusher, and this could be a lengthy injury because he was in a walking boot as of Friday. He's completely out. Not a chance of playing Sunday. Isaac Rochelle and Chris Landrum should get a lot more opportunities. Both guys had sacked in limited action last year as rookies, but what the real case is that Joey Bosa is one of those guys that makes a humongous impact, especially on Melvin Ingram for the Chargers and their pass rush. So this game is interesting because the Chargers have a very, very good defense, and the Chiefs are starting a brand new quarterback. Gone is the game manager of Alex Smith. Entered the game Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is a quarterback that does not have the game managing skills of Alex Smith, but has a cannon for an arm. If you haven't seen how much of a cannon he has, go back and watch the preseason film. I've mentioned this before on the AFC Preview podcast, where Mahomes hit literally Tyreek Hill on a go route. Hill beat three Falcon defenders, going straight down the middle of the field. It was about a 70-yard ball, about 50, 60, 70-yard ball in the air that Hill caught at full speed, in stride, didn't break it. To be so impressive, Tyreek Hill is one of the fastest players in the NFL. Speaking of Hill, Mahomes has plenty of weapons. You have Tyreek Hill. You have Travis Kelce, who I think is the best tight end in the game. I think he's past Gronk. Kelce's the best tight end in the game. You have You have Hunt, you have Kareem Hunt, you have Sammy Watkins. There are guys everywhere for the Chiefs, weapons everywhere, a good offensive line. Mahomes just cannot make mistakes against the Chargers defense that is known for getting to make mistakes. Derwin James is a guy I love in this game. The Chargers have guys on defense, Jaleel Adai. They can make plays. They're gonna pressure the rookie in his first game. And really, the Chargers can go point for point with the Chiefs. This game is going to be fun to watch. On the Chargers, they brought back Antonio Gates because Hunter Henry's out for the entire season. So you always know the dynamic of Gates and Phillip Rivers. They can not practice for 2 weeks and still have the connection there. Keenan Allen on the outside, Melvin Gordon at running back. There's so many offensive weapons in this game. This could get to be a shootout. I don't see it being a defensive affair. I expect a shootout in San Diego on Sunday. Seahawks, Broncos. This would be like 5 years ago. We're talking about 5, 6, 7 years ago. We're talking about a nice little AFC West matchup. Now with the Seahawks being the NFC, it's a NFC AFC game. Out for the Seahawks would be DJ Fluker with a hamstring injury. KJ Wright also out as well too. Dante Johnson's questionable. And good news on the Broncos side of things. There's really nobody big on the injury report. Well, good news is, and I think one of the better stories of the week is Shaquem Griffin's going to start at running back. As a linebacker with KJ Wright being out. Listen, Shaquem Griffin had a phenomenal preseason, and I watched him play at UCF the last couple of years, and Griffin is a tackling machine. He's going to have a huge role for the Seahawks, and listen, he's going to get off. He's one of those guys that has a high motor, high energy, and gives everything he has in the field, so I expect him to be running around the field. Now, the Seahawks have gone through a multitude of changes. Legion of Boom is pretty much gone. Earl Thomas is the only one that has not of Legion of Boom, especially in the secondary, that's not there any longer. Richard Sherman's now in San Francisco, and they've just been interchanging parts. Even on the defensive line with Michael Bennett now being in Philadelphia, the Seahawks defense has just been in transition. Bobby Wagner is one of the few guys that is still left from those days in Seattle when they were winning games defensively. Now on the offensive side of the ball, the Seahawks still has Russell Wilson. Jimmy Graham, who caught 10 touchdowns, is now gone. And Paul Richardson, who had breakout seasons now in Washington. So what does that leave him offensively? Well, Doug Baldwin's always been there, been the key guy that's always been there. Rashad Penny, they drafted in the first round, came in overweight, so Chris Carson's the starter at running back. And listen, they have Russell Wilson, so it's kind of hard to pick against Russell Wilson in any type of game because Russell Wilson can win his game with his arm or win with his feet at the same time. The Broncos, entering the season, upgrading the quarterback position. They added Case Keenum from Minnesota to get the ball to those talented receivers, including Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Running game is ran by Royce Freeman. I think a guy that's been taken really mid-level in fantasy drafts. I have him in 2 of my leagues, and he is going to be a stud at running back. I love Royce Freeman in this game. Case Keenum is going to be able to get the ball down the field to those receivers. And like I say, he's going to take some chances that the previous quarterbacks in Denver the last couple of years have not done. Both offensive lines are very solid, so this is going to be a very, very solidly played football game. I'll give our predictions in a little bit. Cowboys and Carolina Panthers, the game that is a lot of guys in the injury reports. Travis Frederick is out along with Deontay Jones, Xavier Woods all out with injuries. Chinua Azui and Kayvon Frazier also questionable with back and shoulder injuries. On the Carolina Panthers side of things, Curtis Samuel's out with an illness. Darrell Williams, offensive lineman, Amini Salutu, and Chris Manhertz are all questionable. Williams with a knee injury, Salutu with a knee injury as well too, and Manhertz with a foot. Listen, this game is going to be fun to watch. Carolina has Cam Newton, and Dallas has Dak Prescott, so expect to see a lot of running between both the quarterbacks. The only difference is that Carolina is going to be running back Christian McCaffrey is going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, and it's going to be moved around completely. While Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas, it's going to be Ezekiel left, Ezekiel right, Ezekiel up the middle. The only difference is that with Dallas is that not having Travis Frederick, who's an all-pro offensive lineman, especially your center, back there means Carolina should be able to get a rush on him and stack the box against Ezekiel Elliott because Dallas has not so good receivers. Nothing against Terrence Williams, Allen Hurns, and Cole Beasley. None of those guys really are threats to scare you as a Panther defensive coordinator, which is good because Carolina's secondary is not exactly the best in the NFL, not the worst, not exactly the best, but they should be able to pass rush the Cowboys because, like I said, without Travis Frederick being on the line, especially as one of the better offensive linemen and the better centers in the league, Carolina should have a nice pass rush in the game. Luke Kuechly should be able to control the center of the field. Thomas Davis on the outside, and Carolina should be able to get some nice pass rushing. But Dallas, remember, you can't count Dallas, especially on Ezekiel Elliott in this game. Carolina on the offense side of the ball, we've mentioned Christian McCaffrey. I love DJ Moore in this game, even though that if you look at the depth chart, Devin Funch is the main target. I love DJ Moore in this game. In the slot, Torrey Smith on the outside. This might be the Cam Newton has his best passer numbers of his career. He hasn't even broke 60% as a quarterback in the NFL. That's a key number. Panthers at home is a very, 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 very treaty, especially with the 3-point spread. Redskins, Cardinals. Listen, the Redskins will be without Maurice Harris with concussion on the receiver side. Cardinals will be without Marcus Golden, T.J. Logan, and Jermaine Gresham, all out with the injuries. Robert Medici, defensive tackle, is also out, and Garrett Pierre is also questionable as well too. So actually, all those guys with Logan, Gresham, the DK, and Pierre all questionable with injuries, and Marcus Golden is considered out. Listen, the Redskins are really a little bit of trouble at running game. Adrian Peterson against his former team is going to be an interesting thing to watch because Peterson started last year in Arizona after the whole David Johnson situation. I'm sorry. So he was traded to Arizona after David Johnson got hurt midseason. He's playing against his former team. Redskins are now with a new quarterback with Alex Smith. He has to get the ball to receivers, Jamison Crowder in the receiving core. Jordan Reed's finally healthy to start the season. And Smith's a game manager that does not make mistakes or make too many of them. Unlike Cousins, who was one of those guys that decides, at times to be a gunslinger. The Redskins defense is midway a suspect and going against a Cardinals offense that has Sam Bradford at the helm. He's throwing Larry Fitzgerald. David Johnson's completely healthy. You gotta have a feeling where this is gonna go. There's a lot of weapons out in Arizona, especially in a game like this. All right, Sunday night, Bears, Packers, of course, NFC North showdown. Game has changed over the last week. I'll tell you why. DeAndre Houston Carson is out for the Bears. Daniel Brown is doubtful with shoulder injury. Josh Jones is out for the Packers. Oren Burke and James Crawford are both questionable with injuries. Why is this game interesting? Well, the game became more interesting when the Bears acquired Khalil Mack last week in a trade from the Raiders for 2 first-round picks. Khalil Mack's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Meet the best quarterback not named Tom Brady in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers. This game is going to be fun to watch to see what the Packers do on the offensive side of the ball to keep Mack away from Aaron Rodgers. The Packers did lose Jordy Nelson on the offensive side of the ball last season, and they're still without Adam Jones, running back with the suspension. I expect to see a lot of Ty Montgomery, especially as getting out in some flat routes and running the ball. Don't forget they had Devontae Adams. I like Reggie Cobb in this game, and like I said, they added Jimmy Graham and Mercedes Lewis at tight end, not to leave him without options and weapons on the offensive side. The only real thing Packers fans have to worry about is can the defensive line keep up with the Bears, who have a very much improved pass rush with Khalil Mack. Roquan Smith is also a linebacker, and the other thing is that the Bears were a very, very good defense last year. You add one of the better pass rushers in the game, it makes them almost an elite defense. But before I do that and talk about how good the Bears' defense is, the Bears' offense is a real suspect question. They added a whole bunch of new receivers last year, coming off things and issues in situations that, kind of out of control. Taylor Gabriel didn't have the best season in Atlanta, had issues getting off the ball, was used correctly. Now he's the number 2 guy. Allen Robinson's coming off a season getting injury. He was a Pro Bowler 2 seasons ago on the outside. Now, Mitchell Trubisky has to get these guys the ball because Jordan Howard is going to have the box stacked against him, and Howard's up for a humongous year. I love Tariq Cohen in this game, and this game is fixed to be a show because the Packers defense isn't all that good as well, too. But I love Clinton Ha-Ha-Dix because not just the name, he matches the game as well, too, at the safety position. All right, 2 games Monday night. Injury reports are not really out for those 2 games, but because it is Saturday, we'll get most of those closer to tomorrow. But Jets, Lions, Raiders and Rams are the 2 games on Monday night. Jets-Lions, this is the game to me that has a lot of potential to be a blowout early. Lions have a lot of weapons on offense. Matthew Stafford, Golden Tate. I love Marvin Jones this game. Kenny Galladay. The running game for the Lions has always been suspect, but if they get the ball in short yard situations, just know that Garrett Blount's going to be running the ball down the Jets' throats. The Lions defense, led by Darius Slay, is going to try to take advantage of rookie Sam D'Arnold's debut in the NFL. Jets on the offensive side of the ball, they still have Blau Powell at the running back position. D'Arnold at quarterback. I love Robbie Anderson. I think Robbie Anderson has a chance to be a stud in this league. As of right now, I think his suspension or potential suspension is not going to happen. If so, the Jets going to have to figure out what they're going to do on the receiver side of things and who they're going to use in place of Robbie Anderson if somehow something would happen with his case, because he did have a couple of issues off the field in the offseason. Jets defense is the Jets defense, and like I said, Lions can win this game completely big. Last game overview: Rams Raiders. Game has changed a lot. Raiders lost Khalil Mack last week, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, and we're not sure what kind of identity the Raiders have. What we do know is that David Carr is at quarterback. They have Jordy Nelson, Amani Cooper, who is going to have a bounce back year, and Marshawn Lynch on offense. Raiders defense is not as strong as they once were. Like I said, when you lose a guy like Khalil Mack, it does take a lot out of your defense. The Rams were a surprise team of last year, and they even got better. They added Ndamukong Suh and Aqib Talib at corner on defense. They still have Marcus Peters. They have a multitude of talent everywhere. Don't forget, there's a guy named Aaron Donald who just became the highest paid defensive player in the league before Mack got his deal. Also playing on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams, who are an NFC favorite. Offensively, Jared Goff is the quarterback. Todd Gurley, probably the best running back in football, and became a pass catcher last season, which makes him more dangerous because it's kind of hard to tackle Gurley in the open, down your throat all day. Just imagine him now also catching passes. It becomes even more and more of a headache for the Raiders. Robert Woods on the outside and crew. No major names at receiver, but Jared Goff, kind of like Tom Brady and Russell Wilson, just gets it done with the receivers that he has. The Rams' offense line is really good, and this game should really, really be an interesting one, and I'll get to predictions next segment. Speaking of the next segment, we'll take a quick break for about seconds or so, and then I'll go over each game with my predictions as well, too. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. We'll see you guys in about 45 seconds. We are back for the final segment of the Pro Player Insider Show, NFL show. I'm your host, Danny Thompson. So we went over a little bit of every single game that is going on in the NFL this weekend. So let's get to the predictions here in the last segment of the show. We're going to go over like I said, the Falcons and Eagles already played Thursday night, so we won't go ahead and predict that game because the game's already been predicted. So let's go down the list. By the way, we talked about them. Steelers, Browns, I mentioned earlier at the top of the show. As far as games go, 1 o'clock game in Cleveland. Listen, the Browns are excited. They haven't won a game since 2016, and I don't think it changes today. This will not be the week where the Browns get their first win. Pittsburgh, even though without Le'Veon Bell, still has James Conner, and you still have Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and all those targets out there. Expect a big game for Roethlisberger. I think Brown will catch over 150 yards receiving against that Browns secondary. I love Pittsburgh at home, 28-17 over the Browns. The Browns do get some points at home. I love Jarvis Landry's a sneaky guy, especially in PPR leagues, which is points per catch league. Vikings, 49ers. This game changed over. This game had a lot of changes, especially with Jared McKinnon being out. Not particularly sure about Matt Breida and Alfred Morris in the running game, and Jimmy Garoppolo is going to throw the ball a lot against this Vikings defense that wants you to make mistakes. This game should be a mistake-filled game from Garoppolo and not the start that he wants. Vikings will get to the pass rusher. Dalvin Cook gets over 100 yards. Expect Cousins to probably get close to 275, 280 passing the ball. The 49ers defense is good, but the problem is a lot of short fields because the Vikings are going to make some damage. Cousins should throw for at least 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. I love Kyle Rudolph in this game. I'm taking Vikings big in this game, 34-17 over the 49ers. We are looking at Bengals, Colts, possibly be the snooze game of the week. Andrew Luck is back against Andy Dalton. This would have been a couple of years ago. This was a great quarterbacking matchup. Now we're just not so sure. Colts will be missing their run. With Marlon back, not 100% running back. Like I said, Jordan Wilkins should get a lot of touches. I love T.Y. Hilton over the top. And if they can somehow find Jack Doyle in between the red zone targets, I love Jack Doyle when you get inside the red zone. Bengals have a good team. Joe Mixon should have a lot of catches, a lot of touches of the ball. A.J. Green's A.J. Green. But I like the Colts at home. In a snooze fest, I think 13-10 sounds about right because even though both teams have offensive weapons, I'm not sure how the timing of all this is going to work. I like the Colts by 3. 13-10. Bills Ravens. Listen, this game would have been different if Josh Allen was a quarterback, but it's not. Nathan Peterman is a quarterback. I don't know if the Bills even get 10 points in this game. Ravens will be going down the Bills' throats all day long with Alex Collins. I see Michael Crabtree getting over the top a couple of occasions. And don't forget, the Ravens are at home. The Bills can't score. I love the Ravens in this game, 20-3. I don't think the Bills even get more than 3 points because what happens is when Deshaun McCoy is going against a Ravens defense that's going to be stacked in the box, 8-9, watching screens. I'm not sure if Peterman can get to the ball in the hands of Zay Jones and Kelvin Benjamin at receiver. This game should be ugly early, 20-3. I have the Ravens winning that game defensively. Jaguars Giants. Listen, Blake Bortles learned last season, especially if you watch a lot of Jaguar games. If Bortles has a good start, the Jaguars normally have a good start. I think Bortles gets off to a hot early start. I don't think Bortles reverts back to the Blake Bortles we saw last year. Giants are going to take chances down the field. Listen, you have Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard. You're going to do as much as you can to get those two guys the ball in their hands. Jacksonville's defense is going to be really tested, and I think this might be the best matchup Jalen Ramsey has all year at the cornerback position. They're going to move Odell Beckham around the field a lot. I love the Jaguars in New York, especially with the defensive effort, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people make it out to be. I like the Jaguars 24-20. Watch when Leonard Fournette should get over 120 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in the game for the Jaguars. We're looking at Bucks, Saints. Listen, Vita Vea is a humongous loss for the Buccaneers, especially on the defensive pass rush side of the ball. With Brett Grimes and Devontae Harris both being really injury is considered questionable. I don't think Grimes is even going to play in this game. Drew Brees is going to have a field day with the Bucs secondary, and Jameis Winston's not there to be able to avoid the rush of the Saints. So Brian Fitzpatrick is a sit and target. Fitzpatrick's a guy, like I said, you play a fantasy football game, especially the DFS games, because of the fact that the Bucs will be down early and a lot, and they're going to be throwing a ton. Saints score almost 40 points in this game. I love the Saints 38-24 in this game, and the only reason why the Bucs get 24 is because they'll get a lot of points in the second half because they'll be throwing the football. Breeze might not hit 300 yards, but I think Breeze will hit a whole bunch of targets, and Alvin Kamara has a huge game. Kamara shot about 170 yards total, all-purpose yards in this game. Texans Patriots in Foxborough on Sunday. Listen, the Texans could score points for the best of them, but we're not sure, especially with a lot of the targets and receivers that are questionable with injuries. If Will Fuller can give 100%, this game should be a lot closer. Patriots have a lot of guys out on offense. Like I said, with Julian Edelman, I mean Julian Edelman. Edelman's a huge part of that offense, especially the receiving side of the ball. But Tom Brady's Tom Brady, and I love to see this game. James White might have almost a 200-yard day if they give him enough touches, especially in the passing game. Love the Patriots. Love Brady. Give me the Patriots, especially we're not with a lot of questions with the Texans. Not to say Texans won't be a bad team, just not this week. Patriots 31-24 for the Texans. Watson does throw for over 300 yards in the game. Titans, Dolphins. Titans should win this game pretty easily. A lot of the times, the Dolphins are not as. I don't think the Dolphins will be as good as some people make them out to be. I don't have them as highly rated as a lot of people do. Love the fact that Texans can run 2 different running backs. Deion Lewis will be a nice little addition to the passing game, especially on early down, especially passing situations. Derrick Henry will have a lot of touches at the goal line. Mariota doesn't make mistakes. Titans win the game 24-17 against the Dolphins, and Ryan Tannehill's return back. Chargers Chiefs late on Sunday. I think probably one of the better games all the way around. The game has so many weapons. Like I said, so many good offensive players in this game, and both defenses are really, really good. Even though they're missing 2 star players on both sides. It's going to come down to Pat Mahomes getting the ball down the field. I love Mahomes' arm. I think Mahomes will make enough plays with his arm. He's pretty mobile too. He makes enough plays. I like the Chiefs 27-20 over the Chargers. Listen, Joey Bosa being out does affect the pass rush, especially when you're a first-time quarterback as well too. Expect Mahomes to hit at least one deep ball to either Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins before the game is over. Seahawks Broncos. As I said, the Seahawks are going through a transition. We're not sure if the Seahawks are the same team. Broncos have Case Keenum. Broncos have a nice little receiving core. I like the Broncos at home in the Mile High area, 27-17 over the Seahawks. This could be the start of a Seahawks slide this season. Cowboys, Panthers. This is the perfect way for the Panthers to start the season. Cowboys are missing Travis Frederick. Like I said, all pro center. Means pass rush all day long. Julius Peppers and company on the front four is going to make plays. And I see Dak Prescott getting sacked pretty much a ton The only way Dallas wins is if Elliott gets 150 yards. I think Elliott hits over 100 but doesn't hit 150. Cowboy receivers aren't good. Panthers win at home. I like Carolina in this game. 28-17 over the Cowboys. Redskins, Cardinals. Listen, Redskin fans, this is going to be a start of a bad season. The season kind of went really south when Darius Geis, your first round pick, went down the first week of preseason. Cardinals, even though they have Sam Bradford at quarterback, still have Larry Fitzgerald. David Johnson's completely healthy. I like the Cardinals at home, even though they're a 1-point favorite. I think that they do more than just the one. And Patrick Peterson might have a punt return for a touchdown. They can put it back there. I like the Cardinals in the game I like the Cardinals 27-10 over Redskins. Not sure how the Redskins are going to score points, and Adrian Peterson is not the same Adrian Peterson. Sunday night, Bears, Packers. Packers are a 7.5-point favorite. I don't like the 7.5 points, but I do like the Packers win this game. There's so many offensive weapons for the Packers. Like I mentioned before, Devontae Adams, Reggie Cobb, the two tight ends of Graham and Mercedes Lewis, Ty Montgomery coming out of the backfield, Aaron Rodgers, your quarterback. Enough said. Bears are still getting used to things. Like I said, Khalil Mack has only been in camp for about a week. This is the best time for the Packers to play the Bears. Bears are still trying to figure things out defensively, how to use Mack, Roquan Smith, but don't sweat it. When they meet again and the Bears have a little bit more time, especially with Mack, they'll figure it out. I like the Packers in a shootout. I did say a shootout this week because of the fact of the Bears are still getting used to things on defense. I like a 38-34 Packers game because Mitch Trubisky is going to have some time to throw. They have plenty of chance to throw in this game. No blowout there. Lions, Jets. Lions are 6.5-point favorites over the Jets on the early game on Monday night. This game's going to get ugly. Not sure how much the Jets can do defensively, just like I question their offense. What I don't question is Matthew Stafford getting the ball to the receivers. If Matt Stafford does not play turnover Matt Stafford, this game should be ugly early, 31-10. Jets getting blown out by the Lions. Raiders are a 4-point favorite, 4-point underdog against the Rams. The Rams have one of the better offensive defensive combinations in the league. Rams have a top 5 defense, and the offense scores a lot of points behind Jared Goff. Raiders are in transition. I don't want to say turmoil, but they're in a huge transition, and the season hasn't even started yet. Love the Rams, 31-20 over the Raiders. So, those are my predictions. And like I said, we have them on record now. So, next week we'll be in week 2. We'll have a special guest doing picks with us next week, and we'll be doing this every single week here on Pro Players and Stars podcast. I'm Danny Thompson, and I will check you guys out next week.